The construction industry is facing one of the most significant changes for a decade, as CE marking of construction products becomes mandatory in all EU member states and throughout the European Economic Area. But what is CE marking? Well, it demonstrates compliance with the appropriate manufacturing standard for a product. Most of us will be familiar with the symbol because it has been a requirement for many years on products such as toys and electrical goods sold in the European Union.
CE marking is part of the new approach directives introduced by the European community back in the 1980s to make sure that all products satisfy certain common levels of health and safety and standards. In terms of construction, it first started in construction with the Construction Products Directive, which was introduced in 1981, and that was actually changed to a regulation in 2011. The reason we changed to a regulation is because the directive wasn't mandatory in all member states. There were certain member states which didn't see the directive as actually mandatory. So in 2011, the directive changed to a regulation, which makes CE marking mandatory everywhere in the European community.
Most of us will be familiar with CE marking for products. What's new is that the European Union's Construction Products Regulation now requires fabricated elements and systems to be CE marked, even if they have been made from products that have already been CE marked. Two dates are important to everyone involved. Since July 1st, 2013, clients, designers, specifiers, contractors and specialist subcontractors have had to comply with the new laws when it comes to products. And from the 1st of July 2014, fabricated steelwork has to be CE marked.
We've been, as a business, aware of the dates for a number of years. We've delivered at least 3 projects to CE marking. We're currently tendering work which requires CE marking. And obviously this is all being driven by the July 2014 date of where it becomes legislation.
The coming of CE marking for both products and fabricated steelwork has been well trialled by, amongst others, the BCSA. So it should already be part of the industry's thinking. To focus the mind, the regulations are covered by criminal law, which means that failure to comply with the CE marking legislation can lead to fines and even imprisonment.
It's affect how we procure material. We've got to get it from sources that are CE marked, that's the first thing, and the same for bolts. It's changed how we look at projects at the tender stage in terms of identifying specific welding requirements. And it's changed how we control the welding in the factory. And it's changed the way we talk to our clients as well, because in some cases we are educating our clients about CE marking.
Of course, some in the industry see CE marking as another burden. It does increase costs initially, in terms of money, time and manpower. But there is a definite benefit. CE marking provides an opportunity to review systems, manufacturing equipment and the skills of personnel, which can help firms improve quality and the way they do business, which can lead to cost savings in the longer term.
CE marking is actually part of UK law now, so it's something that they must actually carry out. But apart from that, it does actually have commercial advantages for companies. It increases both the quality of the product, it makes sure that the people actually manufacturing the product are competent and knowledgeable about the things they're actually doing.
So, CE marking is here. It's mandatory, and it can be turned to your advantage. What then does it actually mean for fabricated steelwork?
It's quite an in-depth implementation process. Because it's focused obviously on welding, there's certain specific requirements that are over and above what I guess standard fabrication companies are used to. Traceability is much more stringent. There's a bias towards technical reviews at the front of projects, so you actually know what you're dealing with. How you control your consumables, the quality of the welds increases depending on what execution class you're working to under CE marking. So yeah, there's quite a lot of differences.
All engineers, contractors and steelwork contractors should be working to specifications that include, where appropriate, CE marked products.
Companies have had many years to actually get to grips with CE marking, to get to grips with CE marking for their particular products. In terms of companies like Tata Steel, they're already CE marking their steel sections and have been for some considerable time. Fabricated steel work doesn't become mandatory until the 1st July 2014, but BCSA and its members have been putting in place the necessary systems to CE mark for some considerable time. So they should be well on the way to CE marking now. It's not just BCSA members, but other steelwork contractors also have been aware of CE marking for some considerable time.
As we've heard, CE marking doesn't end at the product. It now extends to what's made from the products. If you modify a product that has already been CE marked or place one on the market under your own name, then you have to have it CE marked in its new form.
CE marking applies throughout the whole of the supply chain, from the manufacturer through the distributor to the importer. Also, engineers and specifiers have certain obligations when it comes to fabricated steelwork. The manufacturer has to put in place systems that comply with certain standards to make sure he's manufacturing the product to the right quality. The distributor has to make sure that he's actually doing nothing to actually change those characteristics. And importers have got to make sure that when they're importing products into the European market, that they too are CE marked in the correct way. For engineers and specifiers, they've got to actually specify the right CE marked product and make sure that the actual characteristics and performance of that product meets their requirements.
For any construction project, it is the engineer's responsibility to specify the required quality of fabrication, or execution class, as well as the right CE marked products, and simple guidance is available. Contracts for fabricated structural steelwork should also include the obligations imposed by CE marking. Standard forms are available, such as a CE marking version of the National Structural Steelwork Specification for buildings and the Model Project Specification for bridges. Clients and main contractors also have responsibilities under the Construction Products Regulation, namely to appoint a steelwork contractor with CE marking accreditation. BCSA has made CE marking compliance a condition of membership after July 2014. So simply selecting a BCSA member will ensure compliance with the regulations. But how does a steelwork contractor get certified?
Getting certified is fairly straightforward. The manufacturer, in this case the steelwork contractor, needs to actually put in place a factory production control system that's in line with the actual fabrication standard. Having done that, he also needs to make sure that he has in place the right personnel who've got the right knowledge and competence, and in particular for welding, that means putting in place a responsible welding coordinator. That person needs to demonstrate his competence and knowledge to a certification body. It's a particular certification body called a notified body. Once the actual steelwork contractor has these things in place, he calls in the notified body who will actually assess the systems, assess the factory production control system, assess the knowledge of the responsible welding coordinator to make sure they comply with the standard. And if they do comply with the standard, the notified body will issue a certificate which allows the steelwork contractor to certify his products.
Well, the obvious benefit, I guess, is the commercial side, where we've been able as a business to talk to clients and tender for jobs that have a CE marking requirement. So that puts us at the forefront of that process, really. From an operational point of view, we've seen improved quality, reduced NCRs, better welding quality overall. Just in general, the control around welding has increased significantly.
So it's fairly straightforward. It can be time consuming. It can take between 6 months and 12 months to get the systems in place and properly certified. So my advice to most steelwork contractors is start now.
CE marking is already a fact of life for most of us. And because the steel industry has a well-developed supply chain, implementing the new regulations across the European Union and specifically in the UK is not a problem. In fact, product suppliers are already CE marking, as are many steelwork contractors. Because the steel industry in the UK has been well prepared for the advent of CE marking, there will be no disruption in the supply of steel sections, structural bolts, welding consumables, and fabricated steel when it comes into force. Quality, as well as high standards of production, construction and design, has always been important to the industry. CE marking makes that commitment even more visible. The point is to make it work for you.